But, what I love about your story and Autumn's story so much is all about resilience, because again, it's the hard stuff. This hard stuff, doing hard stuff every single day is what allows us to become these giants, these strong, beings of influence and impact. And I said to Sylvia, we our program's called Roots to Wings, but it's the roots and pushing through the dark stuff and all the soil and the stones and the rocks. If you don't have strong roots, you're not going to be able to grow to the heights. And that's it. You guys had to go through so much, and not all at once, but scaffolding stuff that built you for what she is going to become in the world and what she has already become in the world. But all of that stuff had to happen at the earliest stages, and with you and with all the other difficulties, because again, it's stopping this generational trauma, patterns, and elevating all of us to a new and better conscious world. So we need the light workers like yourself and Autumn to be, the guiding compass for all of us. And it's not easy. And so we just honor who you are and the strength and the courage and everything you've had to go through so that she can continue on and you can continue on to be that voice.
For sure. And, and that's the thing, when I would travel with Autumn, because I'm always in the background, it's almost like no one knew who I was. And there's a couple of times I'm getting shuffled around and I'm like, hey, I'm her mom. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just like, yeah. So
you're like, I'm her
nobody,
anchor, just so you know, because without me, there is no Autumn, right?
yeah,
And that's honestly what you must have been thinking when she was on stage, is like,
yeah,
had I made a different choice, had my dad parented her, would she be who she is today? And that again must have just given you such, validation and so much joy. And even that your mom came in and was giving you those hard, lessons, because it's the hard stuff that probably got you to make a lot of those choices to say, okay, I'm not going to do this because my mom, held me accountable. And those are the things that we don't want to coddle our children. We want to, not make life too easy for them, because when we do, we're not doing them any favor or service.
for sure. And to tell you the truth, like I just recently told him, I was freaking terrified every day. Like, I'm a parent by myself. How am I going to protect you? I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. Like, I wasn't raised in a perfect family. Nobody is, but I'm a survivor of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to have been able to parent and raise these girls as best as I could, to be like, nobody knows things about me. So me, I'm actually a crisis and trauma counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health is my background in addictions, and that's what I do for a living. And so the big challenging part about Autumn's work was I lost a lot of jobs because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be at my workplace, and that hit me hard. The struggle was hard. Like, actually, Autumn supported us when we first came to Ottawa, because I was on EI and it's expensive, and we moved to Ottawa because my youngest daughter Sierra, they're like those two, you can't separate them. She has epilepsy and it was so bad, and so my baby had epilepsy and we were going through a lot of medical stuff, so I was there with her and I was there with Autumn, and it was just back and forth. And I moved to Ottawa for services because services are more easier to access. And all I was told was, yep, she has epilepsy. I'm like, oh my God, she's like having a seizure every 5 minutes of the day, of an hour of the day. It was insane. It was scary. So we moved here and she got help, and now she's a little bit more stabilized now. And you know, Autumn, they actually, this was the other thing. They moved out. So they're on their own. Autumn took her with her. So she's taking care of her young sister who has epilepsy, and I can't separate them, but they're just not far from me. It's like a 2-minute car ride, literally. Like, so they're not far, but they're on their own, and they're doing well. They wanted to adult, so I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna do what I always do, make sure
You
they're
created
okay.
strong girls, Stephanie. That's
Yeah.
the result. And you know, this is just blows my mind away is everything. And you know, when people say I've got it hard, you're that person, right? That says you got it hard. Talk to Stephanie and look at what she was able to
Oh my
raise, right?
God.
Like three amazing kids on her own under the circumstances and the sacrifices that you made. Like again, choices after choices that you made to support your children, even
Mhm.
though you had to you know, have a lot of heavy hits. And the fact that Autumn, you know, realizes that and supported you through all of that is the character building that you've helped her by not
Mhm.
giving her everything, by it being hard for her. It showed her character and again built her in again as a role model for the rest of the world for us to see and hear, both you and for her and what you're
Mhm.
doing. So put your hard times up against you
Yes.
and then you're going to stop you know, complaining about some things. And this is why I love these amazing stories like yours, because it really is about, you know, it's the strongest. It's not the people that have the easiest ways. It's the people who have gone through the most that end up becoming the strongest light leaders in the world to inspire everybody else through their difficult and trying times.
I'm thinking, yep, how many people can say when you don't have the support, you have no one, and you have to drive yourself in labor to the hospital. And I parked my car and I walked into the hospital, and I was just like taking my breaks, and
Think
I
twice
was,
before you complain.
yeah. And then
You got it
because I
good
had to,
compared to, and look at who
yeah,
you've created, you've raised into this world is like a super, you know, rock star activist, humanitarian for the world, for the nation, right? Like, so this is what I love is when you see people who have the littlest amount of resources who create the biggest amount of impact. Sylvia, what do you think about all this? Is this not, do you not love Stephanie and Autumn's story and just in awe of her and everything she's gone through?
Well, that's why I'm just trying to just absorb, right? Because like what Stephanie says, I can just really envision that amount, and I really appreciate the things that you share about what you do, because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask, as well as just how you manage to maintain your own kind of just being able to carry through each and every day. That's a lot of different things I think our audience will be able to relate to, if not you having to raise up the three children on your own, but also having a child that needs health attention, and then having to, figure out how to just manage. Like I'm speechless,
It's
basically.
overwhelming,
It
Stephanie.
is.
And you know, so here's where we're going to go into what tool. So you said earlier you had the medicine wheel, and I love the medicine wheel. I love the you know, Indigenous culture and all of the animals, spirit animals. I do these sessions with spirit animals, and I just love everything about, you know, the education. I love the history of the Native culture. They became something of my fascination because I taught grade 5, 6 for 8 years, and I learned and I learned and I learned and I taught about everything about the nations and their people, and they became one of my favorite people of all times, is because there was such a harmony between Mother Earth and the animals and the people and the way they worked together. I thought if there had to be one culture or one group that I thought was this utopian world that had it all together and knew how to work in all of the teachings, it was the Native community. And that's where I absolutely felt fascinated with it and was inspired in my own teachings and education with it, because I thought this is harmony, right? Where everything's working in this interconnectedness and this oneness with all harmony. It was just a beautiful culture. When I studied all the different cultures, I thought, you know, they had it together. And children as young as 4 years old had a voice in the Indigenous communities, right? And I love that so much. It's where they honored the child's voice, they honored the animals, and they honored the connectedness of the spirit and all the generations that came through the wisdom. So if you had a teaching tool to offer families, your wisdom, what would that teaching tool be?
Well, I know there was so many decisions that I had to make that I would always doubt, am I making the right decision? So I guess the tool would be a similar to the medicine wheel with a pros and cons, because one of the things I always learned about the decisions we make is there's always a positive and a negative. So it's either a yes or a no. There's like no in between. It's like this or that. And so it's always balancing. So if it was a tool that told you to listen to your kids and watch them and observe them, and when they talk, just try it, give them options and scenarios, and make it fun. And that was one of the things, because I'm very playful. I like to play with, like, I'm actually a very big kid. If you put me in a room with plasticine and paint, oh my god, the whole room will be painted. We're right now in my sewing room. The thing is self-care as a parent. People don't think that. And what I had to learn was something too, is if I could do a parenting one-on-one, I always think about that. No one really, like, I got advice from elders and I did what they told me to do, literally did what they said. And listening to the baby's voice starts when you're pregnant. When you know you have a baby in there, you start talking to that baby, not baby talk. You talk to it like it's here. You read to it. You ask how it's day. I was told also, like, how to take care of yourself when you're pregnant. Even before you're pregnant, I got
Right.
teaching what you need to do. So when you're pregnant, and then how do you parent? And it's just like, whoa, every family's different. Nobody's perfect. But when we come from places like where I've come from, like, my history, my past, there's, a lot of different traumas in there. And I guess you could say is resiliency is how to, nobody told me how to ask for help. I had to learn that. And I was so scared to ask anybody for help. So knowing your resources, I thank big brothers and big sisters for helping me. That's who helped me with my kids when they were of age to get into the program. And those sisters that Autumn and Sierra had, they're still sisters today. They're still best friends. And, it's knowing your resources and knowing it's okay and it's safe for you to ask for help, because I relied a lot on the community resources. I did. And mind you, I never been on welfare. I always worked. And that was the thing. I always had a job or two or three. And knowing, your options to make money, to make ends meet. It's almost like basic life skills 101. It's like, here, this is what you need to know. And that's what I was telling the kids, like, wow, it's expensive out there. You should be lucky to be home, because rent is high, groceries are expensive, gas is expensive, then you got to pay your utilities. But they made out adult decision, and they're doing it. And having that communication and trying to maintain balance. So it would be a good workbook. If I used to say, I seen a book someone posted, it says how to be a matriarch, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I know how to be a matriarch. I'm like, I am a matriarch. I'm like, I wonder what
That's
that
on the
book
list
is.
now, right? Stephanie,
Yes.
I'm gonna get you to write that book.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to recap for you. So one thing, your tools, I have a very good tool that I know you would love for this. So I say nothing is good or bad, right? So I don't like to create judgment. So a feather, as a feather choice feels light like a feather. And when we make a choice and it feels heavy like a rock. So the tools
Yeah.
between your two decisions is, if it feels light, right, do it. And if it feels heavy, don't, right? It's
Yeah.
your choices. So that's one thing. And the other thing is play, the power of play, and your inner child. I think this is why you were able to stay grounded and stay youthful and stay present. And the other thing is self-care. And the fourth thing I'm very in tune with in what you're saying is your higher self, right? You relied on your intuition and your spiritual guidance to really get you through when
For sure.
other things weren't there, as well as your community. So you had the balance of your inner self guiding you and accessing that bigger part of yourself, as well as your community people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. It's just I don't know how I did it. Like that's
No,
the approach.
looking back, you wouldn't want to do it again, right? Stephanie,
No,
it's like, no
no,
way.
no way.
It's like it was too much along the journey, but those are
Those
some
were
other
hard.
things. So what is on the excitement and the horizon with Autumn now? Like, what are some really fun and exciting things that she's doing? Because let's face it, she's just at the beginning of her journey in this life and all the impact she's going to have and make.
Well, two things I want to mention about Canada. So, as at the Museum of Civilization in Gatineau, Quebec, it's the big museum. She's in there. She's in the Hall of Canadian History, and she's in there because she made history for Indigenous people in Canada. So she's got a display in there. And who did it? Mom got her in there. I'm
Yay,
like,
moms!
I went in there one
Yay,
day and I
mom!
said, my daughter made change. She should be in this museum. And there she is.
Wow.
That's
And
I love that.
incredible, Stephanie.
yeah, then recent the Canada Walk of Fame, she got recognized as a community hero, and she got a plaque, really nice, and that's where she met Jane Goodall. But we met Jane before in Davos. She was at the World Economic Forum, and it's so cute. David Suzuki, he just loves her, and we have a little joke at home, Uncle Dave.
Aw.
But
And isn't that funny that she was part of our book 5 years ago, Awaken Your Inner Hero, and here she becomes one of the Canadian heroes, right? Like it was like the writing was on the wall, and then that's how we were able to connect and first meet one another. And like I said, you were very near and dear to my heart because I was like, I want to talk to Stephanie. I want to be able to have that story, and then to have heard your story and the connection with Thunder Bay, because that's where I went to college and
yeah,
university, and then have the like everything that you were saying. I'm a northern girl, so it really was special for me. And like I said, because the Indigenous people, the Native culture and background is one of my absolute biggest and most impactful guidance and education in how I, deliver my program in the classroom, and create that harmony with
mhm,
the higher self and spirit
yeah,
animals. It is due to all of those studies that I taught in grade 5, 6. And so yeah, it was really special, and I really admire
yeah.
everything that you're doing and who you are.
Yeah, that's a big piece, that culture and spirituality piece, because, when you don't have that, then you end up down the wrong path. You feel lost and you are lonely, but you kind of make that decision to walk that path, and it's going to be a rough life. So I knew I wanted out of there because I was down there when I was 18, 17. Like I went down a path. I actually went to school for nursing in Thunder Bay, but I didn't graduate because I hit my path and I hit a bottom, and that whirlwind threw me right around, and I said time to smarten up, because that was pretty scary, what I was doing at the time as a young person. And then I put everything down and I just said, I'm just going to work on myself. And then I became a mom, and I said, I got to do this. And you know definitely we have our little challenges. Like, as Autumn was a teenager, he was a pre-teen and a teen. We made it, but it wasn't always easy, because there was times, as a kid, she didn't want to go to different talks, she didn't want to do it, and it's trying to encourage her and support her. And she would stomp her feet a couple of times, but now it's like she's making her decisions now, so she's got her wings, and I just support her. And I always know where she's going, and she travels usually with Sierra, and then she's got her manager Jeff, and I know she's safe because I have a good relationship with him. And she's in university, she finished her first year,
What did she go into for?
criminology.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah,
right?
and I know a lot of people were saying, what happened to, well, she's still doing water, but because she's a woman now, she's like, it's connected. She says, I'm going to connect to, because, but she wants to help missing and murdered Indigenous people, boys, girls, and men and women,
Wow.
because she's an adult now and she's learning and understanding and studying a lot about that.
How old
And
is she now, Stephanie?
19.
Wow. But think
Yeah.
of how much history and life experiences she has, and she's only 19. Like, you know, most people don't end up to be 80 and have those kind of life experience. So I don't even know like who she's going to become after all of this foundation, right? Sylvia has
Exactly.
a really cool story where she was connected to her son Ben, right? Sylvia, where you felt like when you see there's something in their eyes, or you know there's something wise within them, and Sylvia's a power parent like you in seeing that in her own three children. So I love that you guys are these amazing mothers, and you're so present with your kids. And that's like Sylvia said, she was just present with them when they were very babies, and connected with them and listening and very in tune to them. And that's, I think, the secret to power parenting.
Yeah, really. There's a lot of things that you were saying that I was like, yeah, that's really like self-care and making sure that you are in the right mindset to be able to hear. Because if you're not, then you're gonna miss all those little keys and cues that they're thinking, because we can only read their mind if we're, you know, really, really good in our own state, our own mindset. So yeah, you did that. Obviously, that was something that got better and better and better. And I think we're both going to keep, all moms should keep growing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You should never stop growing or learning or listening. There's a lot of priorities, but these are definitely top on the list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, this has been incredible. We are excited to have you at the red carpet event in Niagara Falls on June 1st. And we've got a documentary series for raising empowered kids that we're going to be creating. And we've got 2 videographers there. So we're super excited that, you know, you're going to be one of our favorite featured moms, super moms, superhero moms, because to us, you're a superhero mom. And with and honestly, this is the truth. Autumn would never have been able to step into that life and into those you know, shoes that she's currently in today without you championing her, supporting her, navigating her, guiding her, and protecting her, right? Like all those things is what power parenting is. And honestly, the hardest thing that I've heard from any parent out there, because I'm not one, but it's allowing your children to be front and centered in the spotlight, and the fear, right, of and the overprotection, but allowing them the balance of letting them go in the spotlight, and then but also holding back intuitively where you know they shouldn't be. So you know, that's a big thing. I can't even imagine the courage that took for you to let her have the wings that she has today, because she grew big wings because of you.
Yeah, she sure did.
They're massive. They're like angel wings, like massive wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty extraordinary, her wings.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet you, meet your, you know, you and your girls and Autumn, and we're just so honored to have this conversation with you, because it's about time that we, you know how it's done, so that more parents can really feel empowered now to do the same for their children. And it's never too late, you know. Everyone starts at a different age, so no matter what age your child is, it's still doable.
Yeah,
I
and they
have
say
this one.
behind every strong man, there's a
Yeah.
strong woman, but behind
Yep.
every strong child, there is a strong parent, teacher, coach, mentor. Somebody
Yeah.
has to get behind that child for them to be able to step into those shoes. So we are so grateful for you for raising an empowered, you know, she's no longer a child anymore, a kid, She's an adult, but we are so proud and excited to see who she's going to become and all the wonderful things she's going to continue to do. But we also want to know what you're going to be up to, Stephanie, because now that you're an empty nester, there's more time for you.
So I've been pretty busy because around Ottawa, there's a lot of government organizations. And so that's something that my culture and spirituality, has helped me and it's gifted me with the opportunity to provide cultural sensitivity training to many different organizations like even Canadian Border Services, Oceans and Fisheries Canada. They bring me in to do water teachings and different cultural teachings one-on-one. So I've been making a little name for myself as a traditional knowledge keeper. I'm not elder, I'm too young for an elder, but I'm a traditional knowledge keeper that I practice my ways and I do a lot of teaching. And so I've been doing that. And I was working on a crisis line for a little bit, and then now I'm working with the language now, with the Indigenous languages. So I'm doing that full time, and then I'm doing my traditional knowledge advocacy and teaching part time. And I've been going to speak at different places around here. And I actually do want to venture out and become like a public speaker and talk about culture and spirituality, talk about the roles of women, talk about the roles of little girls, because there is a ceremony that Autumn and Sierra went through. Why I think it's kind of helping them be good want to be adults right now is the berry fast, and that's a rites of passage ceremony that all young girls go through when they get their period, their menstrual cycle the first time, because they're not little girls anymore. Now they have the ability to be parents. So we put them in ceremony for 1 year, and that berry fast teaches them they have to fast from all berries. They can't eat nothing for a year. And people ask why. And I said, something so good, something so tasty, so nice. You give that up for a year, you're going to know how to say no when something sweet and nice and tasty comes your way in a negative way. It's teaching you accountability, ownership, and responsibility, and that ability to say no. And so when those little girls go through that for 1 year, they go through a fast, and then they come out, and when they come out, they're a woman. So and it was interesting. Sierra and Autumn went through at the same time. They had probably because they're so close, their period came at the same time. So they went through the ceremony together.
Wow. I love
And
this because you're bringing back what we need and what we've lost. We've lost the core values. We lost a lot of the structures and the foundations that kids need at the youngest of ages, so that they will be able to go through things with the resilience and with the discernment as they get older. So this has been so amazing. Sylvia, I know we're going to come to a wrap here. We could talk to Stephanie all day long, but we're going to continue this conversation on the red carpet and learn more about all the wonderful things she has planned for the future. But, we really do need you, Stephanie, your voice, your experiences, and your mentorship to empower and raise other children, right? Like you did. You're the first voice.
I just got back from Albuquerque, New Mexico, on Monday. Not today, last Monday, because a young lady invited me to mentor her. She attended the Miss Indian World pageant, and it's at the Gathering of Nations powwow in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So it's far to go there, but a lot of our people go down there for this big powwow. And she says, I want to try to compete to become Miss Indian World. And she asked me to mentor her. So she took me down. I went with this young lady, and she did really well. She went to public speak. So I taught her, we collaborated, and I was basically there as support and to teach her here and there. But that's part of me mentoring. I was honored to do that, and I got to go.
Of course she did.
Didn't
She
win,
got the
but
best.
she did really well.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want you mentoring them? My goodness, you're the mother of Autumn, right? So it's like proof is in the pudding, and you're the result of. So that's amazing.
So
Yeah.
that's what I said. I was like, she says, you raised Autumn. She says, can you help me? And I was just like, I'll try. Okay. So she did really well. And considering she was up against some really hard, like very like Navajo Nation, and we got to meet all the different nations around New Mexico in that area, Arizona, and it was amazing. I'm so glad I went.
Stephanie, I feel like your hero's journey is just at the beginning. It really is, because you now have the experience, you have the wisdom, you have the qualifications, you've got the history, and now you're going to have the time freedom to really focus on you. And I really am excited to see where this is going to go and how many moms you are going to impact internationally just with your story. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming on with us today. We
So
couldn't be
happy
more
for you
pleased.
too. So happy for you that you're at this. Yeah, so happy for you.
Thank you.